Hey guys, hi and welcome to the video. This is part number 4 on getting started series with Kubernetes. Part 4, essentially we're going to talk about replica set and the deployment concept. I'll show you how easily you can scale your application and add multiple replicas, adding 5 replicas, 7 replicas of your app, scaling it down very easily, seamlessly. Let's first learn about the basics, okay? So this is important. We need to understand the basics here. A replica set is a declarative way to manage your pod. A deployment is a declarative way to manage pod using replica set. Now I'll try my best to show you with the example. Pod represents the most basic resource in Kubernetes and can be created and destroyed but never recreated. Okay, this is important. Okay, so it cannot be recreated. What happens if a pod is destroyed, right? Deployments and replica set ensures that the pod stays running and can be and can be used to scale the pods. That is essentially why we wanna use it, right? Then let's go to the next slide. So if you see a replica set, inside a replica set you have a pod, right? And in a pod you have a container. So a replica set acts as a pod controller, very important. Self-healing mechanism ensures the requested number of pods are available, provides fault tolerance, and can be used to scale pods. Relies on pod template, okay, which we are going to see in a short example. So if you look at an overall, you have a deployment. Deployment has a replica set. Replica set essentially has your pod, and pod has container, right? A deployment. So as I said, a deployment manages a pod, right? A deployment manages a pod. Pods are managed using replica set, okay, and scale replica set, which scales the pod. So now hopefully you got the concept, right? So once again, deployment manages the pod. Pods are managed using replica set. So in the previous example, if I show you lab number 3A, if you remember, when we wrote the YML file, the kind was pod, right? Now let's do lab number 4, replica set. Let me show you the power of replicas. So over here, we have to define the type as deployment, because why? We just studied that, right? A deployment manages a pod. So we'll say API, whatever you want to give, API version apps v1. Oh, I forgot, I have to, yeah. So sorry for that, because I forgot, I have a massive screen, so I usually forget that. So if I go back to the deployment previously, we essentially had the kind as pod, right? Now we have kind as deployment. And why? Because again, reading it, a deployment manages a pod and pods are managed using replica sets, okay? So here we are saying, I'm essentially saying a metadata, I'm giving it a name, right? And I'm giving some labels here, right? Then slowly scrolling down. So now see how this works, right? So now a deployment has a specs, and specs has usually 3 items: replicas, selector, and template. In replicas, you define how many replicas you want. You can easily scale up and down, which I'm gonna show you. Selector over here, you have to select app name as Nginx because that is the app name, right? And template is where again you define your entire container specs, right? So you have a metadata, you have a specs, and I'm saying name of the image is Nginx. This is the actual image to use, Nginx 1.14.2. Ports, I want to expose port 80, sorry, my bad. So that is how you write a YML file for deployment. So again, repeating, a deployment essentially has specs. Specs has 3 attributes: selector, template, and replicas. Template essentially where you write a metadata, you define your container, image, yada, 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 yada. All right. So now time for a demo, right? So I want to show you, right? So I have again, if you're following with me, I have this deployment.py, which makes things easy for me, right? So where we essentially create a pod and then we apply that, right? So now I'm going to say Python deployment.py, and this should essentially start my Nginx with 2 replica set. And if I come here to the container or the cube dashboard, and here you can see I have 2 of them, right? Now let's understand certain commands which are important. So if I had to scale up, right? So if I want to scale to 5 replicas, right? By the way, before that, I want to show you, if I go to localhost, I should be hitting my Nginx, which works fine, right? So now I want to scale up, guys. A lot of traffic is coming in. I want to scale up. So kubectl scale -- replica is equal to 5 minus f and the deployment file. So I add that. Take a look at the magic now. Okay, 5 replica sets now. See, that is simply insane. Okay, you want to scale down, huh? So let's scale down. kubectl scale down to one node. One pod. So now hopefully the pod should, as you can see, 1. You see, so easily you can scale up, scale down very rapidly, right? So that's the beauty. Then if you want to get all the replica set, you can use the command kubectl get rs. This will show you that I have a 1 replica set, right? So now if you wanted to delete the replicas, you could use the following commands, and all these snippets have been provided, right? So you can say, if you want to delete everything permanently, you can say kubectl delete -f and your deployment file. So if I do that, if I come to my the Kubernetes dashboard, and everything is gone, right? So you could do that, right? So here are essentially list of all the commands that would be useful, right? kubectl get rs will give you the replicas. If you want to delete everything, you can say kubectl delete -f the deployment file. If you want to scale up your replicas, you can use the following commands. You can scale down using following commands. So essentially these are all the things that you need to know about a replicas, right? I'm just reading it again. Deployment. A deployment manages pod. Pods are managed using replica set. Scale replica set, which scale the pod, supports 0 downtime, updated by creating and destroying replica set. Provided rollback functionality, creates a unique label that is assigned to replica set, and generated pods, right? So that is that. And the last slide that I have is this. One of the strength of Kubernetes is 0 downtime deployment. This is one of the fantastic feature of Kubernetes. Update an application pod without impacting user, right? So that's that. Then there are several options that are available. For example, rolling updates, blue-green deployments, canary deployments, and rollback. We'll take a look at all these stuff in detail, because the one video I cannot talk about rolling updates, rollbacks, canary deployment. I cannot just talk. So I have to talk that in the next upcoming videos. But this video should give you a very good understanding about replicas, how to work with replicas, how to add replicas, how to scale down replicas in Kubernetes, okay? Remember, at the end of the session, we are going to do a full-blown production ready REST API using Kubernetes. We're going to use service load balancer. We're going to scale up the pods, scale down the pods. All of that is going to be done. And then final goal is AWS. We're going to master all this on the AWS using EKS, okay? So thank you so much for watching. This is part number 4, and I'll see you in the part 5. That is the next part, where we will be talking about the service part of the Kubernetes, okay?